Thank you all for joining us today. We are thrilled to have Dr. Tracy Brenner, also known as the camp counselor, with us at Maine Camp Experience to talk about preparing both campers and parents for a successful camp summer. Dr. Tracy has been a wonderful addition to MCE. Supporting mental health and overall well-being of our campers is central to the camp experience, and Dr. Tracy's expertise brings this to life in a very meaningful way. Dr. Tracy is a clinical psychologist with over 15 years of experience working with children, adolescents, and adults. In her private practice, she works primarily with adolescents and adults, providing individual therapy and parent guidance. She also offers camp coaching sessions to support families before, during, and after the summer. Dr. Tracy is deeply connected to the camp world. She was both a camper and a counselor at a Maine camp. Her mother was a camp director, and now Dr. Tracy's own children are campers at Maine camps as well. And I'm Lori Caden, Director and Camp Concierge at Maine Camp Experience. I've worked with Maine families for the past, I've worked with Maine camps for the past 14 years, and I've helped hundreds of families find the right camp fit for their children. I'm also a camp parent. My own two daughters went through all of their Maine camper summers, and one was also a counselor. Now both are in college with several friends from the Maine camp they went to, as well as many friends from other Maine camps in the community. So I've really seen firsthand the growth and experiences and lasting friendships that camp makes possible. I am so happy always to share that with camp families. So we're going to get started shortly. If you have questions, you can put them in the Q&A and Dr. Tracy and I will see them. And at the end of her presentation, she'll try to answer your questions. So without any further ado, I want to turn it over and thank Dr. Tracy Brenner for joining us today. Thank you,
Thank
Tracy.
you so much, Lori. What a lovely introduction. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Main Camp Experience, thank you for having me here. I am really happy to be here. And I always love talking to camp parents because you've already made a decision that I think is incredibly powerful for your children. So take a moment, feel really good about that. What I want to do today, though, is build on that decision and help you understand not just why camp is so valuable, but how to make sure your child really gets the full benefit of it. Because from a psychological perspective, camp offers something that is actually quite rare in kids' lives today. It offers independence, manageable struggle, and support without parental intervention. And that last part, without parental intervention, is where so much of that magic happens. And also where, with the best intentions, we as parents, myself included, can sometimes get in the way. So today we're going to talk about what camp really builds in kids, what makes it work, and how parents sometimes can unintentionally undermine that. But most importantly, what you can do instead. Because the goal isn't just for your child to have a great summer. It's for them to build confidence, competence, and the ability to handle hard things long after the camp summer ends. All right. So when I'm meeting with parents about sending their children to camp, I often start by asking them, why are you sending your child to sleepaway camp? Or what do you hope they get out of it? And sometimes I would say my most frequent flyer answer is a very earnest, Tracy, I just want them to be happy. And parents think what they're saying is so simple. They're not asking for much, but let's think about it. When was the last time you were happy for a full 7 weeks? 3 full weeks? 1 week, even a full day. We feel all sorts of feelings over the course of days, weeks, and months during a camp summer, just like we do during any time period in any place. So that bar of just happiness is actually way too high. The other problem, just happy, is just too limiting. For me, why camp is benefits that go far beyond fun, happy, and making friends, which are all great parts of camp too. So happiness is one piece of the experience, but when we focus too much on happiness, we get in the way of what camp actually does best. Psychological, social, and emotional strengths that set children up for success in life. All of these things in that large circle and more. So if camp is building something bigger than happiness, the question might be how? Camp works because it creates something that's increasingly rare for kids today. And I mentioned this in my intro, and I'm going to say it again because I think it's so important. real independence, manageable struggle, and support without parental intervention. Kids are navigating things on their own. They're figuring out, oh, where should I sit at my table in the dining hall, working through a bunk disagreement, experiencing challenges that feel hard but doable, all the while being supported by caring adults, but not being rescued. And it's that combination that allows them to build real confidence, real competence, and the ability to handle hard things. Camp works not just because of what's there, but because of who's not. Camp is away from us, away from parents, away from our fixing, our rescuing, and our stepping in, away from managing friendships or smoothing things over, away from roles that maybe kids sometimes get stuck in at home. Maybe your child is a people pleaser at home, but at camp, she gets to find a little bit of a healthy rebellious side. Or maybe you've got a kid who's, a really focused athlete and at camp finds out that he loves woodworking or paddleboard, stuff he doesn't get to do at home. And it's in that space, in that separation, is what allow kids to try things, to struggle a bit, and figure out who they are on their own. So for me, these are my core why camp. Why I believe as a psychologist, camp is good for kids. And they're all supported by the fact that camp is away. So camp builds independence, self-esteem, competence, resilience, distress tolerance, which are the exact skills kids need to function in the world. So here's what connects them all. These skills don't develop when things go smoothly. They develop when things are a little bit hard. So let's take independence. It only grows when kids actually have to do things for themselves. So think about something as simple as getting your kids ready for school in the morning. Maybe there are a bunch of things we want our children to do independently by themselves: fill up their water bottles, pack their backpacks, make a lunch, make their bed, lots of things on my mind. But all of them I end up doing because it's quicker. I'm in a rush. It's just more efficient. Maybe I do it better. But at camp, and no one's being independent if I'm doing it for them. At camp, though, kids actually do these things independently. And that's what builds real self-esteem. Not being told, oh, you're amazing, but experiencing yourself as capable. So an example I like to use to really help people understand what self-esteem really is this one. It's imagine this. Imagine your child is writing a paper. Maybe they're a little young for paper writing, but imagine yourself. You write a paper, you work really hard on it. You hand it in, you get it back, you get an A. Oh, you feel really good. You internalize that A. You say, I did that. Example number two. You write a paper, your kid writes a paper, they write it, they still work really hard on it. They hand it to you or your partner for edits. You edit it, they make the changes, they hand it in, they get it back, they still get an A. They're still probably psyched. Kids care about grades, but nothing goes into their self-esteem. Part of them wonders, did I really earn that? Would I have gotten an A if my parents didn't have a hand in it? So when we step in, even with the best of intentions, even to just provide minimal support, kids always question, did I really do that? Next up is resilience. Resilience grows when kids get through something hard without someone stepping in to fix it. Your child will have endless opportunities to become more resilient at camp. They'll struggle to get up on water skis and try again. They will miss home and they will learn to cope with support and they'll get through it. They discover, I can handle this. And alongside that is distress tolerance. That's the ability to feel uncomfortable without needing to escape that feeling right away. Because here's the shift. Feelings don't always need fixing. They need support. And this is what camp does so beautifully. Kids feel sad, maybe left out or disappointed. Normal feelings children feel in life, we all feel in life. They don't rush home. They get through it. And then they learn something incredibly powerful. I can do hard things. And that's why awareness matters, because these skills don't develop when we as parents step in too quickly. Now, you might be thinking sleepaway camp is inherently away. Isn't that enough? Like, why are we talking about this? Yes and no. Yes, the physical distance does create some buffer against swooping, fixing, and rescuing. But also no, because parents are quite skilled, even from afar, at trying to manage, control, or have a hand in that camp experience. And often this is done with the best of intentions, but it chips away at the power of awareness. It can look like being helpful, right? Parents say, I'm just trying to set my child up for success. But it often turns into solving problems for kids before they even arise, right? Maybe you write to the director and say, oh, can you just make sure she's sleeping in the bunk next to her best friend? Actually, what this teaches your child subtly, you might not be able to handle it if you don't get exactly what you want or you don't have the optimal bed placement. Or perhaps treating discomfort as if it's a problem to be fixed. She's a really picky eater. She doesn't like the food. Is it okay if I send some snacks so she can have that? Rather than, go to camp, see how you do. If there's nothing you like, who can you talk to at camp who can help you? And then another way we unintentionally undermine awareness is this idea of we as parents needing constant updates. We just want more photos, more emails from the camp director about how they're doing, more reassurance. And this is really about our anxiety as parents. Okay, so instead, how do we protect that awareness? We take a step back, we trust the camp, and we trust our child. We tolerate not knowing because not knowing isn't really a problem. It's the space where growth happens. And when your child is struggling, you can absolutely support them from afar, right? You write letters that are filled with support. You'll have, if you're at a camp with phone calls, you'll have a couple of calls to give that support. And then in the conversations you're having right now is where a lot of the support comes. You're going to listen, you're going to validate, and you stay connected, but you resist the urge to solve or fix. You let them try, you let them figure things out. Because camp is for your child to have their own experience, not for us to be in the middle of it. And just to say this clearly, your child is not alone at camp. There are attentive, caring adults around them all the time, noticing what's going on, supporting your children, and communicating with each other. Counselors are talking to other counselors, group leaders, administrators, all of them, so they know what's going on and can step in when needed. Of course, if there is something you as a parent truly need to know, camp will tell you. The difference is that it's just simply not you providing that day-to-day support and management. And that's where growth happens. Another way we as parents unintentionally undermine that awareness is something I call over monitoring. And this is when our anxiety, a parent's anxiety, is in charge. And I mentioned it can look like this idea of wanting constant updates, maybe over analyzing and reading into your child's letters, analyzing photos. You say, oh, that's my child's group of friends there. Why isn't she in them? Or she's in the background, or is she being left out? Ooh, she kind of looks sad there. Reaching out frequently for reassurance. Oh, I just need to know that she's okay. And I want to say, parents, this is all so understandable. When my son, who's my older child, I have two children, both at camp now, but my older son, when he left for the first time, my husband and I just kept saying to each other, like, this is just so weird. It is strange to have your child not home. It feels really weird. There's an emptiness. It's strange. But we're choosing this path, right? So just like kids need time to acclimate to being away from us at camp, like there's a reason that most camps, if they have phone calls with parents, those don't happen before day 10 usually, maybe 2 weeks. That's to give children the time to acclimate to the distance. We need a little time to acclimate too, and no one really prepares us for that. So give yourself a little validation that having your child away from home feels weird and hard. But here's the hard truth. You guys knowing, all of us knowing how your child is doing doesn't actually do anything to help them do better. What it does is it keeps you tethered to their experience instead of allowing them to have their own separate one. So the work is to notice that urge to stay connected and allow some space. So let me make this really concrete. Let's talk about letters from your camper. I've actually been asked if I could teach children how to write more detailed letters that are more satisfying to parents, right? Parents want more, they want to hear more. But honestly, the best sign in a camp letter is you go to that mailbox, you're so excited to get the letter, you open it, and there's a blank piece of paper inside. All that means is your child is too busy to write, having too much fun, but they know they got to get past that letter day requirement. So they got crafty and stuffed a blank piece of paper in that envelope. Next up, photos. If you are at a camp where they send photos to parents, I want you to think of those as a gift, and that's it, because they can quickly become a trap. Why doesn't my child look happy in this picture? Why aren't they in that picture? Like I mentioned, that's their friends. There are dozens of reasons why your child may not be in a photo. When we analyze, we're not actually learning anything, we're just fueling our own anxiety. And sometimes that anxiety turns into the worst of it all, asking your child to give you hand signals to communicate how they're doing. I would strongly discourage you from doing that, right? The give me the thumbs up if you're okay. Think about what that communicates to your child. You are saying, I, your parent, cannot tolerate not knowing how you're doing. Next, it tells them if something is wrong, if we're a thumbs down, I, miles away, need to be the one to handle it, not the people who are actually there. Instead of instructing them to give you hand signals to communicate to you, talk now. If something's wrong at camp, turn toward the people who are there to support you to provide that support. So instead of monitoring from afar, we prepare our kids for the moment. Who can you go to? What can you say? Because that's where growth happens, and that's where that real confidence is built, right? I'm handling this. Okay. And there's one place where all of this, the need for updates, the analyzing, the reassurance seeking, tends to get amplified. Camp parent group chats. I completely understand the instinct and desire to connect with other parents. It absolutely comes from a good place. But what happens in reality, these spaces end up increasing our anxiety and decreasing our child's opportunity to grow. Let me show you what I mean. So here's an example of a group chat, right? So you're on this group chat, the first letters are coming in. They're saying, who got a letter? And I got one. She says camp's amazing. And oh, my son says it's fantastic. Oh, he loves it. He loves his bunk so much. And you just got a homesick letter. How do you feel? These spaces can quickly become places of comparison that can feel isolating, anxiety provoking, and even competitive. Next up, a concern gets raised. Suddenly there's speculation, interpretation, escalation, this idea of we all need to rally together to say something. Here's the key shift. If something's happening at camp, the best place to go is always the people who are actually there. So you don't need, if you heard something concerning from a child, um, if you have a reason to be concerned, you don't need to get backing from the group or reassurance. Just give a call to camp and express your concern. That's what they're there for. Here's the core idea. Camp is your child's social world, not yours. They are there to make friends, to navigate relationships, and figure things out on their own. And sometimes these chats can even create exclusion among parents, and those dynamics can spill over into our children. So while group chats often start as connection, they quickly slide into comparison, anxiety, and overinvolvement. And it's more than okay if it's not for you to step back or opt out. So I want to pause for a moment because everything I've been talking about so far is hard. Camp is incredibly powerful for kids, and we crave that reassurance and connection because it's a real emotional experience for us too as parents, right? You might be noticing, even starting now, feelings of separation anxiety, feelings like you're going to have a loss of control. I'm literally asking you to back up and relinquish control. Maybe even a shift in your identity. You've been parenting for 9 years, and that's been a huge part of your identity. And now you're sending a child, maybe both children, maybe all of your children off to camp because so much of your day to day is wrapped up in this role of being a parent. What's that going to feel like? Suddenly it changes. But here's the reframe. Camp isn't just an opportunity for your child to grow. It is an opportunity for you. It's a chance to practice letting go, something we're going to have to do as parents throughout life, and to tolerate that short-term anxiety in the interest of something bigger. It's also got a lot of benefits for us as parents. It's a chance to reconnect with parts of yourself that might exist outside of parenting that have been dormant for a while. Your own relationships, your own interests, your own fun. Maybe you start playing pickleball this summer. You haven't had the opportunity to pick that one up yet. So, and the other thing, I mean, I remember sitting down having a moment last year. I know I can picture exactly where I was. It was a beautiful day. I was in my kitchen, and my kitchen was clean and it was quiet. And I just like took a deep breath. I was like, wow, I'm having a break from parenting. I never get this. Never. enjoy it. I often say camp is a really incredibly selfless decision for parents because it's weird and it's hard to have your child away. But if you can connect to this moment of refueling yourself and allowing yourself to have a joyful break from parenting, it's pretty special. So enjoy that. And remember, all this stuff you're doing for yourself is not taking anything away from your child's experience. It's actually supporting it. Because the more you can step back and feel steady yourself, the more space your child has to step forward. Okay, so if letting go is the work I'm asking you to do, what makes it easier? Number one, trust the camp. Look, we are here with Maine camps. I have met many, if not all, of the Maine camp directors. These are trustworthy, thoughtful, intentional people running incredibly solid camps. You've made good choices. And remind yourself you've chosen your child's camp for solid reasons. And I hope one of them for you is because you trust the people in charge. Let them be in charge. Second, trust the process. No challenge, no change. The moments that feel hard for your child are often the ones that matter most. Next, accept your lack of control. Things happening at camp are not things we can or should manage in real time as parents. That's part of what makes it so powerful. And finally, redefine connection. Redefine what it means to be connected to your child. It doesn't mean constant contact or full knowledge. It means letting your child go, have this full, very meaningful experience, and then sharing it with you over time, over the 10 months that they're home. And it's actually pretty amazing how this happens. I remember last November, I was driving my son down to a soccer tournament and a song came on, and he's like, "Oh my God, this is the tune we used for our fight song." And then I'm learning all about color war and things that I never would have known if this moment hadn't happened. And it was an organic moment. And that's what made it pretty cool, not me grilling him and interviewing him for things about the summer. Okay. Stepping back is one way we support a successful summer. That's what that was. Another is reframing what success actually looks like. Because these are what the messages we get that we're surrounded by, that we're inundated by on social media, right? At camp, you make the best friends, you make friends for life, you have the best summers ever. And while those things can happen, these messages set an impossibly high bar and expectations for parents, especially in their first summer. That's not how it actually works. Friendships at camp, they take time, they change and they evolve. And if this is something you want to learn more about, I just wrote a blog about camp friendships that's on the MCE blog section of their website, so you can check that out. But friendships at camp, just like in school years, they change over time. Some summers are better than others, and that's okay. More importantly, these summer superlatives leave no room for the full reality of the camp experience, right? Even in a great summer, there are going to be hard moments, and those moments aren't failures. They're where growth happens. So I remember the first summer I started doing this camp work, I got a call in July from a mother who had a son at camp who had been quite homesick. And, she was very worried that she was going to go to visiting day and her son was going to spend the day begging to come home. And what should she do? So she starts off and she says, "Tracy, I did everything right. I told him he was going to make the best friends. He was going to love all of the activities. He was going to have the best summer." And she definitely did a good job of getting this boy fired up to go to camp. But when he got there, and it felt a little slow and he had a little trouble, making friends instantly. And the activities, they started with a lot of rules. Okay, he was not prepared for this. So instead of these superlatives, I posted the following on Instagram, which weirdly did not go viral, like live 10 for 2. I like messaging like this though. Instead of "this is going to be the best summer of your life," try something like this. During the camp summer, like all seasons, you'll feel all sorts of feelings. I know you'll love those high moments and that you can handle and even grow from those challenges too. We need to start talking about the fact that you feel all sorts of feelings at camp. So here is your mindset for summer success, not those superlatives. All feelings are normal and to be expected. Not always happy does not mean not thriving. Growth happens through the ups and downs. The goal is to experience a full range of emotions. Next, we can repair after challenges, right? Repair is really powerful. Don't you remember those moments like in adolescence, you'd fight with your best friend and then you'd have a talk about your feelings and you'd feel even closer after, right? Repair is where connection really comes in. Growth comes from learning to tolerate discomfort, doing hard things, remembering that without challenge, we can't change. Camp summers can feel different from one to the next. A more challenging summer doesn't mean it's bad or that camp isn't right for your child. Camp summers vary. Tough doesn't mean wrong. And I think that's really important. And I hope we have some returning camp parents on here because I think there could be, ooh, maybe if my child has struggled last summer, that, ooh, is this right for them? Nope. Camp summers vary. And we'll talk more about the messaging you can give there. So now I've talked about your mindset for summer success. Let's actually talk about how to prepare your child for the summer. When preparing kids for camp, the goal isn't to take away those hard feelings. It's to help them feel ready to handle them. So we start by normalizing. Teach your child that two things can be true. Your child can feel nervous and excited at the same time. Next, we normalize homesickness. Missing home, I say this to my kids all the time. I'll just start with the prompt. I go, missing home, and they go, is the most natural and normal feeling to have when you're away from home, which is true. We should expect to miss people we love when we're away from them. Then actually talk to your kids about their feelings. Not just what are you excited about this summer, but also what might feel a little hard or scary. And then when they share, don't rush past it or try to fix it. Oh, but you're going to have so much fun. You're going to forget about missing us. Nope. Instead, meet them with empathy. Yeah, that makes sense. Alongside that, we communicate something just as important, our belief in them. I know it might feel hard, and I know you can handle it. That combination of empathy and confidence and is really powerful. So, like, I'm gonna just like spoon feed this to you, right? So we're gonna talk about hard things. Here's how. Here's how to even get started, right? So let's say you've got a camper who's been nothing but excited about camp, something like this. I know that you're super excited about camp. I'm so excited for you too. We haven't yet talked about any fears or worries you might have for the summer. What are some things on your mind? Now, some of you might be thinking, oh, my kid is only excited about camp. I am not rocking the boat by talking about homesickness, or I don't want to plant a seed. Okay, you're not inducing a problem or planting a seed by talking about a feeling that may happen, right? You're just giving them the tools, which we'll get to handle it if the feeling comes up, right? You can say you may feel this way. It's total not feel this way, but it's totally normal if you do. Next up, if your kids were more like mine before starting camp, talking a lot about their fears and worries, something like this. I know you've mentioned being nervous about missing home. Let's talk more about it. And then finally, for a returning camper, if I have camp parents on here who maybe their child is entering their second or third summer and they are more worried than they were when they started for the first time, this is super common. You are not alone. My son was the champion of this feeling because often what happens if there was some homesickness in summer one, what looms large then over the year is that feeling of discomfort and forgetting about becomes much bigger in brain space than remembering how much fun they had and all of that. So that fear or worry gets amplified. Totally common, but start talking about that. So something like, I know there were some parts of camp last summer that felt challenging. Let's talk more about what that felt like. Get them going and listening. Now here's what you do. Now here are the actual tools to use and give to them. So you've opened the door for these conversations. I actually just a little tip. I like to have conversations like this often in the car. You have a captive audience they're listening to. Sometimes eye contact can feel intense or overly emotional. So that's my tip. So I've already mentioned having empathy and validation for their worried feelings. They're completely normal, plus communicating that you believe in their ability to handle the feeling. But now let's prepare for your kids, not just for what they might feel, but when they might feel it. Because hard moments at camp are often very predictable. When I sit down to do this camp coaching, working with nervous campers, I can say to a kid who's never been to camp before, so if you're going to miss home, when do you think that might happen? And most often they'll say nighttime. Sometimes if they're early risers, early morning, but they're all pretty able to anticipate the fact that downtime is going to be harder than active time, right? You're much more likely to think about missing home when it's quiet. than when you're trying to get up on water skis or reach that top of the rock wall. So if they don't say it, or you can say something like this, there might be moments like at night where you feel it more, and that's okay. That doesn't mean something's wrong. Now we're giving the feeling context, which makes it much less overwhelming for a child. Then we can help them make a simple plan. What can you do if you're having a hard moment? And when I explore the what can you do, I explore it in two categories. One, supportive lines, pep talk lines they can say to yourself, and I'm going to give you my favorites. And two, distraction techniques that they can use to get out of their head so the feeling is so terrible, to give them a little relief. Next up, who can you go to? Counselors are very ready to be supportive people to your children. And this might feel weird to your child, but let's explore the list of people who are there to support them. Maybe it's a bunk counselor, an age group leader, the camp director. Maybe your camp does like Camp Big Brothers and Big Sisters, all people they can go to for support. Sometimes if you want to do this, this is one of the things I do when I do my camp coaching sessions. I write stuff down and put it in this little case that they can take with them and stick in a bin that goes under the bed. And it has supportive lines that I'll go over in the next. It has distraction techniques like maybe listen to music, or I like a book on an MP3 player, read a book, things like that. So if they want to have that with them, that's something you can certainly make. Next is just as important as what to avoid, what we don't do in these conversations. Rushing to fix. Oh, I'll just call the director and make sure X, Y, or Z. Nope. It's not about that. It's about helping empathize with the feeling and letting your child know they can do it. Don't minimize the feeling. That's oh, you'll be having so much fun. You won't even have time to miss us. And then finally, don't offer an out when things feel hard. If it's really bad, you can come home. That's just setting up for a mindset that's going to make it really hard for your child to throw themselves into the camp experience. What we want kids to internalize is this might be hard and I can do hard things. And so these are the supportive lines that I use all the time. I train staff with these when I'm doing staff training. I use them with kids all the time. I put them on note cards for the coping skills toolkits that I make, right? We talked about this. Being away from home feels hard because it is hard, which pairs so nicely with, and you can do hard things. Two things are true. You can miss home and still enjoy camp. Next up is one that I really like, especially if you have a kid who is nervous about being homesick, is nervous about going, but also is really excited about the activities and friends and things like that. That's where I like to say, don't let the worries win, right? That would mean we stay home because we're scared, rather than saying, I can handle these worries, and also getting through them allows me access to so many cool things to do. Um, this is one that I used with my daughter when she was really little and she was having trouble going to sleep at night. And it's a great one for camp too. I was trying all sorts of different things. Nothing was working. And I sit on the edge of her bed and she's crying. And I go, there's just something about nighttime. And she stops crying and she's silent. She looks at me as if I had just bared into her soul. And she goes, there is. And like I had understood her on this great level. So there's just something about being away. There's something about these words, which are essentially meaningless, but a child can feel really connected when you say it in the right way. And then finally, one of my favorites is no matter what, the clock will tick. I like using this with kids when there's the anticipation of like, especially a nighttime homesickness pattern, or even look, if they're having a hard time at camp in general throughout the whole summer, no matter what, that clock is ticking. With every minute, you're getting closer to that moment being over. Whether it's just nighttime is hard, it'll be over. A new day full of fun and activities and excitement is going to come. If camp is really hard, each moment we're getting closer to the end and the time they're going to come home. I hope it doesn't last that long, but it is true. No matter what, that clock is going to tick. And hopefully, even if it's hard, they end with a feeling of pride. I did something hard. Okay, my next camper prep tip to do now with your children is practicing independence. So this concept I need to give my husband, who is not a psychologist, credit for. So my son, I mentioned, was nervous about going back to camp summer two. He was homesick that summer too for about a week as well. And during that week, my husband said to me something like this, I wonder if for Teddy, he's adjusting to the being away from home, and that's hard. That's emotionally hard. But we also do so much for him at home. We don't pick his clothes up. We don't make him pick his clothes up off the floor. We make his bed for him. He doesn't have to do a lot independently. Maybe that's just like too much of a jump, both the emotional and the physical independence. What if instead, going into summer three, we really hold him accountable to being more independent before he goes? So we did this. You pick a date, start with a skill like, I don't know, making your bed. Have your child start doing that now and do it for the next few weeks repeatedly and continue it until the first day of camp. A couple weeks later, add a new skill. Maybe for my daughter, it was putting her hair in a ponytail. Look, all these things are things they can get help with at camp, but a child will feel more competent going in knowing that they can handle these things. And summer three was much smoother for my son. I don't know if this was it, maturity, whatever, but it was a much smoother transition. Okay, my third tip for you all is teaching your children self-advocacy. If they need something, they need to ask for it at camp. And this has three categories. First, asking for stuff. Please, tonight, play the following game with your child. Ask your child what's the thing to do if they lose their toothbrush at camp. Mine said, I will write you a letter and I'll put it in the mail and I'll send it to you. And then you'll write me back and you'll send me a toothbrush. I said, great. How many days will you be going in that case without brushing your teeth? Not the right answer. Make sure they know if they need something. Batteries, toothbrush, shampoo. Ask somebody at camp for that. Next up, skills. If they're having trouble putting that pesky fitted sheet on their bed, ask somebody for help. This can be a bunkmate. It's quite empowering for a friend to help another friend out, or of course, their counselors. Can't tie your shoe, can't put your hair in a ponytail, all that stuff. They're there to help. Next, and the hardest one, tell your child that if they are struggling with hard feelings, to tell somebody they're having a hard time. This one is particularly hard for kids because most often you are the only people they've gone to talk about hard feelings. Explain to them that these are their parents for the summer and they are trained and ready to handle homesickness, feeling left out, social conflict. Counselors are ready to support your children. Tell them to tell somebody if they're having a hard time. So those are some ways we can prepare our kids broadly for camp. But now I want to shift to some of the specific moments during the summer that can feel harder and think about how to respond to those. So these are often the triggers of emotional moments. First up, departure day. This is one of the most emotional moments for everybody for the summer, and we want to prepare for it ahead of time. A key is helping your child anticipate what might feel hard so they're not caught off guard and they can feel ready. So maybe about a week or two, they're ready to go. Talk through what the day will actually look like. Describe the scene in detail, right? For my case, we're going to go to a shopping center parking lot. There will be coach buses there. Then describe what they'll see and what they'll hear and what it might look like and feel like. You might see older campers running, jumping, hugging, and screaming, so excited to be reunited and so excited for the summer start. You might see other younger campers clinging to their parents, looking a little sad. It's all normal. Your child might feel all of it, the excitement, the nerves, the anticipation, even some sadness, and you might feel emotional too. Again, completely normal. Do your best to keep your emotions in check, but it's okay to say to your child when you're having this conversation in advance, I might be emotional too, and that's okay. That doesn't mean this is wrong. My most important tip, my favorite one is plan that goodbye in advance. Have a routine, like basically have a script that you are going to enact when it's go time. Keep it short, warm, and confident. So when they say campers, it's time to board the bus, say goodbye in the parking lot at camp, or board the plane. A quick hug, a simple ritual, a secret handshake, whatever it is, hug, and then they go and put one foot in front of the other and go. That way they know exactly what happens when it's go time and they just have to execute. Done. If you think your child's separation from you might be especially hard, let the camp know ahead of time so they can let a counselor know or whoever the staff is with your child to have an eyeball on them and help provide extra support in the moment if needed. Remember, the goal isn't to make this emotion free. That's unrealistic. It's to make it feel predictable, manageable, and contained. Okay, the next emotional moment, which I have experienced many times as a mother, is receiving a less than happy letter. I probably wrote a bunch too as a camper. Before you even open it, take a moment to prepare yourself. No one is going to do this, but listen to me anyway. You go to the mailbox, you get the letter. A little self-talk. Whatever is in this letter, I can handle it, and so can my child. Remind yourself that context matters. Kids write letters during downtime, which is always harder than active time. And the act of writing means they're explicitly thinking about you, probably missing you when they think about you. Also, realize by the time you're reading the letter, it may very well be old news. Days have passed for most since they've written the letter. Notice what you're feeling. Okay, so then you're going to open it, you're going to read it. Here, put mine up. This is my letter from my son in his second summer. He has given me permission to share. He's the best. Okay. And part of that is because he knows he can look at himself in these week or 10 days of homesickness during summer 1 and 2. And now and even in those summers, the remainders of camp, he adores camp so, so much. Can't wait to go back. But this is real and this is him. So it says, I miss you guys too much. My eyes hurt now because I'm crying 24/7. Come and pick me up as soon as you get this letter. Love, Teddy. Okay, so notice what you're feeling. I'm feeling really sad reading this. This was really hard to read. Add some compassion. Of course, I feel this way. My child's suffering. This is hard. Then a simple reframe. It's normal to miss home. The first week of camp is always an adjustment. And I put there on there in the turquoise, one of my favorite lines to say to your kids, to say to yourself, doing something new almost always feels uncomfortable, which for a new camper, that's what camp is. That doesn't mean it's wrong, right? That doesn't mean he has to go home. Being uncomfortable is okay. Hard doesn't mean something's wrong. And then try, if you can, as parents, not to act right away. You don't need to immediately pick up the phone and call camp. Let the feeling settle. Trust camp. They will reach out if there's a real problem. If you can wait for subsequent letters to see if this was a moment or a pattern, great. If you can't tolerate waiting, and I understand, reach out to the camp with curiosity instead of panic, right? Here's what I'm hearing from my child. What are you seeing? And if they say, you know what? Your child is engaged in activities, making friends, nighttime's a little hard. Okay, two things are true. They can have fun and be happy at the same time. A letter response. So I like to respond. I have a sample here of a combination of validation, empathy, and encouragement. So here's something like what I might say in response to that letter. Dear so-and-so, I got your letter. I got your last letter, and I can hear how much you missed us when you wrote it. And I purposely put in that when you wrote it timestamp because they may not be feeling this way anymore. I imagine that's the hardest part about camp. I want you to know that I hear you and I believe you. I also want you to know that I believe in you. I believe in your ability to do hard things. Being away from home feels hard because it is hard. Remember, it's possible to miss home and have fun at the same time. Even when it feels so hard to do so, try to throw yourself into something you love. Little distraction recommendations, a free period at soccer, ping pong with friends, cheering loudly at games. Remember the many people who are there to help you and reach out for a hug if you need one. I'm sending one in this letter right here. Remember, no matter what, that clock will tick. I love you. Love, Mom. I posted this on my Instagram one summer. I'll do it again this year. And then I like to think around day 10, many children in Maine are opening the same letter from their parents. All right. Phone calls and visiting day. These are two moments when you'll see a resurgence of separation feelings. Here's the key idea. Connection can bring up separation. That's part of the process, not a problem. Phone calls, especially, can feel a little weird. They're not a natural way for kids to connect at this age, especially, and think about the environment, which you may not know. Phone calls often happen like in the camp office where there might be a lot going on. They can be really distracting. People are always around. I laugh thinking about my very first phone call with my son. We knew it might be a hard one because of the homesick letters. So what happened was we get on the phone, my husband and I are like bracing ourselves for this call. We say hello, silence, nothing. And we're sitting there, oh my God, he can't even get words out. He's hysterically crying. No, he just hung up on us because he didn't know how to use a phone. So just in general, set your expectations really low. You may not get a lot of content, and that's okay. Next up, visiting day, which can be emotional too, but it also can be really powerful and positive. You get to see your child taking ownership of camp, right? They're showing you around, they're introducing you to people, and you realize this is my child's place, and that's pretty cool. Then comes the goodbye. So just like departure day, like when I told you about like making a script ahead of time, a little preparation for the goodbye early in the day can go a long way. I do this both with calls and visiting day. With calls around minute two, I will say something like, um, I'll say something like, we have 10 minutes for this call. When the call ends, we're going to say a quick, I love you, goodbye. We're both going to hang up the phone. So you don't have any of that lingering, oh, don't go, don't go. Nope, execute the script. Same with visiting day. Like around 10 in the morning, I'll say, today at 4, they're going to say that it's time for all parents to leave. We're going to give a quick hug. I'm going to head toward the parking lot. You're going to go off to your next activity. So again, they know we're going to keep it short. We have a plan and we're just going to execute it when it's go time. And what we know, even if this is emotional, the phone or visiting day, kids recover really quickly. They settle back into their routine much faster than we might expect. All right, your kids haven't even left. You haven't even packed yet, and I'm talking to you about them returning home. Just hold this in mind for the future. Coming home can bring up a wide range of emotions. Your child might feel happy to be back and really sad that camp is over, or somewhere in the middle, or different at all different moments. Also, keep in mind your child will probably be exhausted, which can make everything feel a little more intense. So try to follow your child's lead and go lightly with those questions. Hold off on asking right away if they're going to go back next summer and other things about, peppering them. That's uncomfortable. Some kids will tell you everything, others very little. Think of this as a 10-month unfolding, not a 48-hour download. Two important reminders. If your child seems sad to be home, this is not a rejection of you. It just means that camp mattered. And if their initial report is negative, oh, I hated camp, that was the worst summer, resist the urge to correct them or reframe, right? Oh no, you got the lead in the play, you loved it. Nope. Stay with their experience. I'm sorry this felt so hard for you, and validate it. And I'm proud of you. You did something really hard, because the goal can't be perfection, it's growth. And remember, they did something hard, and that's something to feel proud of. Finally, camp in the off season. It's perfectly fine to let camp stay at camp. I say that all the time. And yet, when I was a camper, we didn't have the ways to connect and communicate like we do now. But camp relationships now and then are incredibly strong and don't need that constant contact and maintenance to hold. I still have camp friends I can pick up with instantly, even after years apart. So just follow your child's lead. Some kids will want to stay very closely connected during the school year, and others don't, and both are completely fine. But parents, notice your own feelings. If you feel a spike of worry or FOMO, like you hear other kids are all having camp sleepovers and you're worried about yours feeling left out, that's your own feeling and not necessarily your child's. So try to stay out of that comparison and that noise, because ultimately, what makes camp so powerful is that awareness and that space that it gives kids to build something of their own. So now, finally, if you take nothing else from today, please remember that camp isn't just about happiness. It's about building the skills your child needs to navigate life. And those skills don't grow. And sorry, let me restart. And those skills do grow when we can take a step back and tolerate our own discomfort and allow children to work through theirs. Your job as parents isn't to make everything okay. It's to support them as they discover that they are okay. The goal isn't to raise a child who never struggles, it's to raise a child who knows that they can handle struggle. And with the right partnership between you and your camp, that's exactly what you're giving your child. All right, so I think I saw as something popped up. We have a lot of questions, so we'll take those now. I just also want to share my contact information with you all. You can email me. My email address is there. I have a website, which you're welcome to go to, and an Instagram account at Dr. Tracy Brenner, which is entirely camp content that I post my blogs that I do with MCE, and other little tips and tricks for the summer. So please feel free to follow me.